Welcome to Homestead Reptile, and today with me is this beautiful little cappuccino girl. And today I want to talk to you guys about the top 3 most beginner-friendly reptiles are also the most mistreated, and why I think that. So, I have experience working in animal shelters, and let me tell you, the top 3 most popular reptiles are the ones I see in animal shelters, and that would be, and not in any order, bearded dragons, leopard geckos, ball pythons. I do see honorable mention for these two, red-eared sliders, and a few corn snakes here or there. But surprisingly, the corn snakes are always pretty much good health. I rarely ever see an unhealthy corn snake when it comes in. So, bearded dragons have a ton of personality. They're popular for a reason. So, I am on Instagram, and I love watching bearded dragons on Instagram. There's this one bearded dragon, you might know who he is. He's very, very popular. So, his owner has this gray sock that this bearded dragon is absolutely in love with. And he'll jump out of his cage, do a huge belly flap right onto the floor, and he'll run to that sock and do his little head bobbing and dance around it and grab it. But he's absolutely in love with that sock. He's adorable. And I love just watching bearded dragon compilations when they try to jump on something and they fall out of it. They're kind of like the cats of the reptile world of Instagram. But they're adorable, they're fun, and I know why people love them. They have such a great personality. And because they're popular on Instagram, a lot of people know they have fantastic personalities. They're popular for a reason. They deserve their popularity. But they need a little bit more care than what people think when they first get them. So, bearded dragons are a beginner reptile, and I agree they are a beginner, but they have a little bit more of a complex diet. So, they're insectivores, but they're also an omnivore, so insects, different veggies they need. So they're pretty easy to feed, but that's a little bit different, a little bit more complex than a strict insect eater or a rodent eater. They need UVB, and this is where I see people mess up a lot. So diet and UVB. I see a lot of people give the improper UVB, either not getting the right light spectrum, the wrong type of light bulb, where they coil. So coil UVB is still sold in pet shops, and a lot of pet shop employees will tell you to get this type, and you just go with it because that's their recommendation. They know more than you. Instead of the cylindrical bulb. I don't know what that one's exactly called, but the cylindrical bulb one, the long, skinny one. So I see a lot of them that do come into the shelter have some form of metabolic bone disease, and that's a sad thing. So they are so hardy that I've seen some come in where their jaw is rubbery, its spine is kinked up like a pretzel, it has no use of its back legs, and it will eat and poop and drag itself to its water bowl, and they will survive. And they will survive for years. And they're just so hardy, they can take that. It's not good for them. They would be happy not living like that, but it's just so common, and you can mess them up so quickly. So a baby bearded dragon, its first couple of months with you, they're so sensitive. They're so sensitive to not getting the proper UVB, not getting the proper diet. You can do so much wrong with it when it's a baby. And it's sad. It's super common. I see it all the time in shelters and rehoming situations where they have some form of metabolic bone disease, gout, or dietary issue problems. They're great pets. It's just because they're so popular, because they have such a big personality, people want them, and then people don't know how to care for them properly, and it's sad. And then leopard geckos. I had leopard geckos. So my leopard gecko recently passed away. She was 25 or 26 when she passed away. She was a childhood pet. Absolutely loved her. Her name was Freckles, and she was a great little girl. Lots of personality. Enjoyed eating her insects. Now, she was kind of weird. She pretty much had a couple of varieties of insects she wanted to eat. Everything else was a no for her. She was like, nope, that's a stupid insect. I don't like that one. And a particular size of insects. It had to be this size, and she would eat it. She was a spoiled girl. But I see a lot of people mess up with leopard geckos. And I'm always astonished when I see a leopard gecko that has MBD. It's like, how did you do that? Did you just never give it calcium or multivitamins or anything? It's like, what were you doing to do that? So there are species I see that not as often as a bearded dragon because they absolutely need UVB, but I see leopard geckos occasionally come in with it. But most of the time, I see people kind of starve their leopard geckos. That's a super common thing, where they don't have like a disease or crypto or something. They don't have crypto. Ones I've seen that have been half starved. The people just weren't feeding them, and as soon as you started feeding them properly, they bulked up in weight. But the nice thing about the leopard geckos, they are very easy to rehome. So they're a small lizard. A lot of people love them, and they're the easiest one out of that group to find a home. They find homes pretty quickly. They don't stay in the shelters very long, at least in my shelters. They stayed for less than if they were ready to go immediately and they didn't need any rehab, less than 48 hours. Especially if they were just directly given to us, where the person signed away their rights to it, they could be rehomed very quickly. And a lot of the staff would actually take them home. They're really popular with the rest of the staff. And then the third most popular one that I do see mistreated are ball pythons. Ball pythons to me are boring, but people love them. So they're pretty, they have a ton of colors, they're all over the place, and they're, again, a species that, all three of these species are super common to find in all expos, and you can find them at all big box shops. So normally with these guys, with ball pythons, I see them come in with shedding issues, upper respiratory issues. Those are the main problems. So upper respiratory could be from too much humidity, too little humidity, stuck shed, also that humidity problem. But they'll have, the shedding problems are so bad that it has 10 layers on this animal. It can't breathe. It has all these other problems, and they can take a while to rehab. And also the problem, if they have an upper respiratory issue, they don't want to eat, so they can come in extremely thin. And those types of snakes can be hit or miss, because when you're so thin, you have this upper respiratory thing, it can just take you out. But they can survive it for a very long time. And all these three animals are beginner friendly, and they can survive a lot of neglect. That's why they're beginner friendly. They can take a lot of mistakes from new people. And again, it's sad, and I see this happen a lot. I think bearded dragons kind of have it the worst, because when it goes bad for them, it goes bad so quickly, and they can get so messed up. I always feel bad when I see a bearded dragon like that. It's like they just didn't care for it properly. But again, these are the three species I see most of the time in shelters. There are some others that I will see, but it's not as common. Now, I keep crested geckos and garter snakes. So I've never seen a garter snake in my shelters. And I've actually never seen a crested gecko come into the shelter. Not saying it doesn't happen, but I haven't seen it in my local shelters. And I think I see less crested gecko neglect just because they have crested gecko diet. It's a powder with everything they need, and you just feed it, put it in water. So the most neglect I see is someone just not feeding their gecko and just letting it live off of air, or too much humidity where they have shedding issues, but they have less prone to upper respiratory problems. They just seem to can take a lot more mistakes than a bearded dragon. But if this was interesting to you, like and subscribe and tell me what you think.